Hello! It's been a while. I was on what some would say a forced vacation, but I'm back. So, welcome back to another Abyss review. Thankfully for this series, Miho, decided that when Fontaine dropped on the 16th of August, they would not, they did not reset the Abyss and change the enemies. I would guess, as they finally did that. They wanted you to get into the new region, learn the enemies and stuff before they switch. They kept the old abyss so that you could focus on the exploration and Archon quest, of course, before without stressing about the abyss since you've already defeated it. So that was nice. But yeah, a new region is upon us, and my goodness, we will finally talk about floor 9 and 10. As always, camera's getting small so that you have some nice background footage, and I'm gonna be reading off the script. But yeah, new region, floor 9 and 10 are getting changed, and then they remain the same for the other patches, but we can finally talk about 9 and 10. This abyss in general is not very hard, I would say, but some of the new Fontaine enemies can be extremely annoying. Note that, not hard, but annoying. But yeah, since we are covering more floors than usual, let's get immediately into the review. Beginning with floor 9, we have an interesting floor. Um, yes, I know that players with well-built teams will just breeze through these floors, but these reviews slash guides aren't meant just for you. Aren't just meant for players that have been playing for long. Even though I am somebody that has been playing for a long time, I still want to help some weaker players as well, because the Abyss is literally most of the time just free Primo gems. Also free artifacts, free Mora. They give you a lot of resources. Why not use them? Right. So um, yeah, so I'm gonna be helping you with floor 9. For this floor 9, they need it. These weaker players need it because in amazing MiHoYo fashion, they made this floor, in my opinion, harder than floor 10. And I 100% believe they did this so either people immediately rush to the banners or give up on the Abyss early and never come back. Why is that? Well, it has to do mostly with the third chamber, so let's put that aside for a second and check chamber 1. Let's begin. 9-1. Both halves consist of a mix of treasure hoarders, nobushis, and new Fontaine mechas like dogs and stuff. These shouldn't give you much problem. They're definitely split into different areas in the arena, so some Anemo CC can help a lot, but also all of the enemies here do not have that much HP, and the time limit is generous since this is an early floor. So chamber 1, both halves, you should be good. There aren't any also any elemental counters to that you need to pay attention to when building your teams. In chamber 2, there are two very distinct halves here. One centered around cryo enemies and one with pyro enemies. There are hydro mimics and cryo slimes on the first half, as well as these new sea monsters that are cryo. They have a cryo shield, and they of course launch cryo attacks. So getting frozen will be a pain in the ass. And on the second wave, because there are two waves, there are treasure hoarders and like these new the new mecha lady. With like the blade legs, which I'm gonna be calling Camille because their design is very much reminiscent of Camille from League of Legends. If you've ever played it, you can easily look it up. But yeah, like I'm just gonna be calling them that. Like I don't know, like Blade Lady, Blade Legs Lady. I don't know. Camille is easy. So Camille's are always kind of accompanied by another mecha that buffs them, or like it's sort of like a companion. They summon it almost immediately after they spawn. It doesn't count towards the enemy. You need to take down the mecha. You need to take down Camille. But I actually didn't really notice the buffing that much, mostly because the Camille's also chase you down. So there is a possibility they run out of the range of the buffing. Or it's just really a companion that just shoots extra projectiles. So, it's just taking notice this will also spawn, but don't focus it down, thinking that this enemy needs to go down for the floor to progress. Just take down Camille. Yeah, the problem is though that it's usually cryo from what I've noticed, and Camille's are hydro. They have hydro attacks, so they also freeze you as well. So you might want to take it down for that, but I didn't notice again that much of freezing actually from them. But the one thing is that these companion mechas, they basically don't have an attack range. They will attack towards the other side of the arena if they want to. As for the second half of the chamber with the pyro stuff, it's exactly the same, but pyro. As actually, I think I kind of didn't notice the companion mecha spawning, with the Camille, but it's the second chamber of floor 9 is cryo and pyro, and that's it. It's the same enemies, but other variants. Here is where you will need some proper counters, and well, to be honest, the counters are just don't bring cryo or pyro for their respective halves, so that you don't deal fucking damage to the slimes and specters and stuff. Last chamber though of floor 9, and here is where I firmly say fuck you, miHoYo. Because in this chamber, while the enemies aren't that tough to beat, there are two Meta Churls, and then some combos with the new mechas. They decided to put the new Pneumosia beacons here, or however you want to call them, but it's the mechanisms that infuse enemies with, infuse an element onto an enemy, and they also increase the resistances towards elements, so they basically take very much less damage. But these ones are much more bullshit than the normal ones. I won't go into detail because we would be here for far too long, so you can try and search up the differences. It shouldn't be that hard to find, but you will be shocked at how much more stupid the Pneumosia variant is. And yeah, and genuinely, I believe this can become the sole reason somebody says, fuck the Abyss, I'm never coming back. And why do I believe this is the case and it's a miHoYo tactic? Because these never show up again. Yeah, you would expect floor 12 to have them since it's the hardest floor, but nope. Right, so tell me, what do you think? What do you think is the point of putting these mechanisms on floor 9 and not on any other floor? It's very, very clear that they're doing this to piss people off, to immediately run to the banners, right? Or again, to just say, fuck the Abyss, I'm never coming back. So that, they're not getting any Primo Gems from the Abyss or other resources, so gotta open that wallet. Anyways, on to floor 10. Here we have a pretty easy floor, actually. First chamber has treasure hoarders and a harvester mecha, and some pyro fatui on the first half, and the second half is a copy of the artifact domain, actually, with the two small mechas and the big, like, bulldozer or, like, wrecking ball thingy. It's a construction mech, that's what it is, I think. But yeah, it's basically a copy of the artifact domain, its first wave. So, if you've been to the domain, you should be good. Again, early floor, not much health on the enemies. They don't really have any crazy attacks. You should be good. On the first half of the second chamber is a huge bunch of specters and mushroom enemies. Pretty easy, just don't bring something that can damage the specters. And MOCC will just obliterate everything in these early floors, by the way, just as a general thingy. And on the second half, there are two small Vishaps and one big one. That's it. Baptismal Vishaps have shown on the Abyss many times and in early floors. They can be annoying with the energy draining mechanic. You might want to iframe the damage that they can deal, or just try to dodge the attack so that you don't get your energy drained. But again, early floor, they're not that hard, even for you weaker players. They don't have that much HP. Then on the third chamber, there are some Eremites on the first half and two Ruin Graders second half. It's a very easy chamber. So yeah, and the entire floor is very easy. Generally, I believe it's easier for a weaker player than floor 9. That fucking beacon is, that infusion mechanism is super annoying. Like, you generally do not deal any damage to the enemies. And again, search up the differences between a normal infusion beacon and this Pneumosia variant. They made it 10 times more bullshit. And it seriously pisses me off. Because even I just went chill into floor 9. And I saw this and I was like, wow, this is actually bullshit. I wasn't having like crazy trouble, but I'm like, this is just annoying. So yeah, what can I say? I forgot to mention, before we get to floor 11, that these two floors do have some buffs on them that you can utilize. Floor 9 focuses on vaporized damage, so if you have a pyro carry, you can use that to get yourself an easier time. And floor 10 gives you extra damage on enemies that are afflicted with hydro, so if you are having trouble, do consider these buffs alongside the regular abyss buff in order to maybe make it through. With that, let's get to floor 11. This floor is split into halves of Pyro and Cryo, more so than floor 9's Chamber 2 that we mentioned. All chambers have like Pyro and Cryo resistant enemies, or enemies that are countered by the opposite. So, you need to make your teams accordingly. The first chamber is the same for both halves. It has slimes, specters, and whopper flowers. It's pretty simple. Again, it's just two variants of Pyro and Cryo, so you don't need to bring like Pyro Cryo characters because you can't deal damage, of course, right? The second chamber has some new Fontaine enemies on the first half, with two Electro Lavachors on a second wave, so be careful of them. They can hurt you real bad with some of their attacks, while the second half is chock full of Vishaps and the Sea Hare enemy from Fontaine, as well as two Cryo Lavachors this time. And then the last chamber has some Kairagi and Obuses on the first half, and also the Primo Geovishap on the second half. I don't know who the hell remembered this guy, but okay, it's a pretty easy boss. Since we are on floor 11 as well, it doesn't have that much health. But if you are struggling, remember to bring a shielder to do some good damage when it does its special attack. And you don't need any crazy shields. As long as you are protected by some sort of shield, even Crystallize can work, you will deal the damage. And that's floor 11. For players that have some teams built, you will easily breeze through this floor. It's very easy. For weaker players, take advantage of the elemental buff if needed, and of course bring a shielder for chamber 3, or just a geo unit with elements to create a crystallized shield is gonna be perfectly enough for taking down the Primo Geovishap if you're having trouble. And ladies and gentlemen, here we are on floor 12. Starting with chamber 1, of course, on the first half is Mingo Kinky. I don't need to say much about the lad. He has been on the Abyss numerous times, so you shouldn't have that much problem with him. A good boss killing team easily defeats him. Right, try to iframe the huge attacks that he does, and maybe pray to RNGs that he doesn't dash around a lot with some when he's on his second phase. But again, it's the first chamber, so not max level, and it's Mingo Kinky, man. He's easy. Come on. On the second half, though, we have an interesting lineup. First is a wave of 4 of the evil Hydro Eidolons, or Phantasms. They spawn in front and behind you in pairs, and they can be a bit dangerous. First of all, they never group up. Anemocracy does affect them a bit, it does pull them in, but I would suggest just tackling them a pair at a time. They do have some nasty attacks, which is the second thing, that deal some good damage to you. And also the ones that are always far from you, so if you go behind you, the front ones, front ones behind, they will always do this like water jet stream attack, that while it doesn't necessarily hurt a ton, it can constantly stun lock you and stagger you and interrupt your combos, so be careful with that. You don't necessarily need a shield, because they don't have infinite range on this water stream attack. Like, as you spawn, if you go in front of you and you go behind the phantasms that spawn in front of you, though this water jet attack should not reach you from what I've seen. But again, be careful with this. They also have like this mode. Well, they go into like this bulky kind of like seal shape, and I kind of feel they take kind of like less damage during that. But I'm not 100% sure. The phantasms, again, a bit dangerous with their attacks, and again a bit annoying how they spawn, but they don't have the best, like they don't have most of it, they don't have that much HP compared to some other enemies that we've seen, like consecrated beasts. But they're also always afflicted by hydro, so you can actually use that in your advantage to constantly proc vaporize, freeze them. You can freeze them. You cannot freeze them, I think, when they do that seal shape attack, I noticed, but you can freeze them to stun them, you know. You can trigger hyper bloom or bloom stuff. Take advantage of the constant hydro application they have. After the Phantasms is a construction mecha alongside the shooter guy mecha, and a Cryo mates. They spawn in a triangle. Problem here is that they also never group up. And also, it's impossible to group the construction mecha. I think the shooter guy can get staggered, but he's not that affected by an MOCC. Cryo does. But the thing is that the construction mecha will chase you, but not the other two. So pick either the Assassin Mage or the mecha and take them out before finishing the last guy alongside the construction mecha. CC or taunts again can help, but I wouldn't bet on them. Taunts maybe can gather him a bit, but you know, the shooter guy shoots from afar. The Assassin Mage just censor bullshit like small flies. So again, don't bet on the NMOCC or taunts, but they can help. And now we get to Chamber 2. Listen. This chamber pisses me off a lot. It isn't a very hard chamber, but fuck me, the first half contains the new crab boss, and this fucker can go fuck itself. There's a lot of fuck here, but fuck this boss. This guy not only has numerous heavy damaging moves that also set the floor on fire, so you constantly take damage. It also spawns instantly with a damaging attack, right? It crawls and just hits you like this. But its gimmick, the glowing horns that you need to take down so that he stops, he gets stunned, he doesn't do the really heavy attacks. This shit, they are made in such a way that most characters cannot hit. Seriously, fuck this. They really want to push the upcoming Hydro units, and to be honest, also Kokomi, because for fuck's sake, even Xingqiu and Yellen can have some trouble hitting the horns. I tried many teams to see and suggest to you what to bring against this motherfucker. Most succeeded, but not without going through a lot of pain. Any team with Xingqiu does demolish the guy. And you will tell me, why are you complaining? Well, because Xingqiu applies a ton of Hydro. And this thing doesn't have a lot of, like, a big elemental shield on the horns, right? And Xingqiu again applies a fuck ton of Hydro. And you should be able to see it a lot on other enemies. Well, because of that, you can easily see when Xingqiu absolutely misses the horns, which is very, very annoying. Like, you're just wasting time like, you're using a unit that is a primo unit on destroying shields, even like with Yellen. But you can easily see, like, you're wasting time because the horns have the shittiest hitbox ever. Well, not the shittiest hitbox, it is intentionally shitty. So that they sell you Fontaine Hydro units that are most likely gonna have some sort of AoE, or, as we've seen some leaks with Nouvellette, he's able to aim his Hydro application. And Kokomi, of course, because she has AoE. Like, fuck that. And yeah, like, fuck this. That's why I'm complaining. It's so annoying. Electro can do okay. I've seen Raiden do very well because she also has a bit of AoE application with her skill. But my Fischl and Beidou did not do the best in my Al Haytham team. It did okay. It did break the shield at some point, but because of the single target nature of Fischl and Beidou, they did not break the shield consistently. Beidou's counter did, but not anything else. Yeah, and other than that, it's a giant fuck you. I tried Ayaka. I tried an Ayaka team, pure cryo team, not without Xingqiu. And only her charge attacks would consistently hit the horns. Her skill, sometimes, kind of her burst barely touched them. And Kaya, who is also there in the team, did almost nothing. I didn't try any other cryo units since I don't have any others or I don't use them. But cryo doesn't seem to do the best. Again, only Ayaka spamming charge attacks dealt easy damage to the horns. And even then, the team that I had needed some good coordination on when to throw Ayaka's burst actually to deal damage. Did I do it with 3 stars? Yes, I did, but again, fuck that. But yeah, as for, I don't know, Anemo, which I also tried, it's also an eh. Sometimes Kazuha would hit the horn, sometimes he didn't. And I thought surely Xiao would hit them, right? Giant plunges? Nope, not a single hit. Not a single hit them. I don't know if it was something that I was doing wrong, but generally all of Xiao's plunges did nothing to the horns. And I remember something with Hydro units. Ayato, right? You would say Ayato has AoE slashes, mate. There's no fucking way this motherfucker doesn't hit the horns, right? Yes and no. Ayato doesn't have the best Hydro application. All of his slashes don't apply Hydro constantly. The ult also has a cooldown on the enemy that it hits, right? But I don't know, but when I used Ayato with a burst, sometimes he would do actually nothing. I don't know if it's a bug or something, but generally, he would do nothing to the horns. Ayato! Like, generally, like, even even taking into consideration elemental ICD, internal cooldown, generally he didn't do anything. He would never hit them. I was like, what the fuck's happening? Is this a bug? So I'm like, what the fuck? I've seen others do much better with Ayato, so I'm like, what the heck is going on, seriously? So yeah, fuck this boss in the end. Fuck this. Second half. There are some Eremites on the first wave, with a Spirit Spawner lady, and after that, there are the two new Alien Marcianito Breacher Primuses. These guys aren't that difficult. They are affected by NMOCC a bit. Don't get confused when they get their shields up. They don't actually reduce the damage they take, so you can brute force through them. But they will unleash powerful attacks while they have the shields up, so you might want to break them. They are Dendro and Geo Shields respectively, so the Geo Shield can break a bit easier than the Dendro one, but anything like Electro and Hydro mostly will destroy the Dendro Shield. Pyro I think doesn't do that well because it affects because it puts burning on them. So construct your teams again as needed. Cry of course would do nothing, although I think I did test that because again here's the thing, because the damage doesn't get reduced when they have the shields up, fucking freeze them, I guess, right? You can freeze them, although if you're freezing them, you're bringing a Hydro unit. But you know, like you can brute force it even with like pure cryo, let's say, or other pure elements. Like I did try the Geo team, like full Geo boys. They brute forced it very easily. I did try like pure Anemo can also do it. Like again, they're not like the Breacher Primus thingy, not that hard. And finally, we get to the last chamber. Here, they decided to reverse the enemies, and the boss is on the second half. Why? I don't know. They could easily have one half be a boss killing, like, you know, boss killing halves, but they always do this. First half has two Fatui Pyro Slingers and a Spirit Spawner Eremite. I suggest not running straight to the Eremite lady unless you have an MOCC, because 99% of the time, the Fatuis will jump backwards, and they will easily ruin your time a lot. So approach one of the Fatuis, like, they spawn like this, go like this, right? So that the Fatui jumps towards the Spirit Lady, and then you take them down together, and then it's just one Pyro Fatui Slinger, right? Be careful, because they haven't changed this. These guys don't take damage from anything other than Hydro. By the way, yeah, it's a very big truth. Newer enemies do, but they haven't changed the old enemies. But yeah, be careful. Generally, like, you might think Fatui Pyroslingers, they're easy, but once they bring that shield up and you don't have a Hydro unit, it's fucking bullshit. they get a lot of damage reduction. But yeah, after that, after you take them down, what is basically the second wave of the artifact domain spawns. One Camille mecha and one Gunner mecha. Just stick to the Gunner, since Camille will chase you, while this guy doesn't. It's the same with the artifact domain, which is a tip if you want to clear that quicker. But yeah, stick to the Gunner, Camille will come, and that's it. And on the second half is the new mecha boss. Specifically the Coppelius version, or the guy version. The man version. This motherfucker stays in the center, and they do the crescendo or something, and spawns a cryo shield 3 fucking times in a row. So I hope you have the means to break it. It's not a strong shield. I managed to break it with the Geo team by carefully calculating stuff, but 3 times in a row can go fuck itself, because he doesn't take damage during that. It's a like a cryo slime shield. He doesn't take any damage. So yeah, and also they have some very heavy damaging attacks that also hit you many times, so they stagger you a lot. But other than that, after you break the shield, they do a bit of a dancing thing. They also again don't have that much health, but fuck that 3 times cryo shield. Now you might have noticed that I haven't mentioned the pneumousia mechanics, which can help you against the Fontaine enemies and this boss. And that is why this mechanic is the worst thing ever designed for combat. And legit, the people who designed and approved of this mechanic, the pneumousia thing, can very much go jump off a cliff. I'm serious. Kill yourselves. Extremely serious. I know very well why this mechanic exists. And I'll just say, fuck you, miHoYo. Alright? I'm not interested in many of the Fontaine cast. And yes, this mechanic now isn't that needed to defeat the Abyss or some boss even in the overworld. Right. Remember the Dendro hypothesis? You need a Dendro character there. What if you didn't want to use the Traveler or you weren't interested in any of the Dendro units during Sumeru? Right. Now the pneumousia isn't that much. But you never know what BS is gonna appear in the future. Right? It's just a shitty predatory system that we should very much not support, nor encourage, and go against, and genuinely, like, I mean, now it's out, but, like, seriously, try to go fucking against miHoYo with this shitty bullshit. It is genuinely an amazingly bad system, and you never know what bullshit they're gonna do in the future. Don't let them do this. Do not. You watching this video might have not pulled on the banners like me, and you didn't struggle with the Abyss. But someone out there was having trouble, and they saw that the new shiny Fontaine characters can make the Abyss easier, and they opened their wallet to get the new characters. Or if they didn't open it now, they spent their Primo Gems, and now they will have to open it if they want a future character. This pisses me off a ton. This pissed me off a ton when it released, and I shall stop here. I could rant about this crap for an entire video, but I won't now. This was the 4.0 Abyss. For the first Abyss of Fontaine, it's not that bad. But it does contain a lot of bullshit. The crab boss is extremely annoying if you don't have any teams that do well against it, with Raiden, to be honest, for the best out of the Electro. Maybe Yaimiko can do it, but I kind of doubt, actually. Or Hydro. And with Cryo, God bless you. To any gods you believe, I bless you. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, like it, subscribe to the channel to help it out, and follow me on Twitch for daily streams. I'm back from my vacation, as you can see, so streams are going to continue. Just need to get into the rhythm of stuff on being back here, because I've been gone for a month and plus. Goodbye, I'll see you in another video.